evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing to the news on church stories. I am Oyi Okbala. Let's begin. The cost of war is never abstract. It shows up in broken lives, shattered communities, and the slow decay of a nation's soul. Nowhere is this more visible than in the collapsing public infrastructure across Ambazonia, where even a simple afternoon near the Mulang River in Bamenda can turn into a tragedy. Yesterday, that river claimed yet another innocent life. A young Ambazonian caught in the ripple effect of a war he did not start, but which continues to threaten the most vulnerable amongst them. As Ambazonians bury yet another child, a darker truth unfolds. The threat to Ambazonians no longer comes only from the bullets of French Cameroon, it also emerges from within, from those who claim to fight for Ambazonians' freedom but ended up terrorizing the very people they swore to protect. Today, as some voices urge Ambazonians to rally behind indicted leaders of the so-called Ambazonia Defense Forces, we must pause and ask, are we defending the revolution or excusing its betrayal? There is a difference between a freedom fighter and a warlord, between a cause for justice and a cover for a crime. Tonight, we will be differentiating all of these differences. But first, let's get the prime headlines. Tonight, we take a look at the war turning Bamenda's river into death traps for children. Also tonight, the in-house slave mayor of Buea, David Mafany, cracks down on closed shops amidst lockdown. Also tonight, Sabga-Bamenda Hill Road turns deadly following dilapidation. Tonight, we take a look at Colonial President Biya authorizing 9.2 million euros loan from Islamic Development Bank for basic education project. Also, on the African scene, Mali deploys military escorts to protect vital trade routes amid Islamist militants blockade, and Nepal erupts in youth-led protests over corruption and censorship. Now let's get the news in full briefings. Since the French Cameroon government declared a war on the innocent Ambazonians, it has let its public spaces fall into decay. This has turned the consequences of the war into a direct threat to the lives of these most vulnerable citizens. Yesterday afternoon, the Mulang River in Bamenda, chief town of the Midland Zone, took another young life. What should have been a normal afternoon became a gut-wrenching tragedy. The community not near Street 4 in Bamenda is once again forced to bury one of its own, but this time around, it is a death that was entirely avoidable. Local sources say 4 children were simply playing in the Mulang River when the unthinkable happened. 3 of the children swam to safety, but the 4th, a young boy, didn't resurface. He was reportedly trying to catch a fish when he disappeared beneath the surface. After about 10 agonizing minutes, his friends screamed for help, and although neighbors and first responders searched frantically, they found his small body in the river shortly after. Looking closely, This drowning isn't an isolated incident. Critics point out the fact that this and more is a direct result of the colonial government's failed policies and its misplaced priorities in the ongoing so-called national emergency. With all of these resources and attention fixated on the militaristic approach, the French Cameroon government has abandoned its fundamental duty to maintain basic public infrastructure. Rivers and public spaces that once provided a bit of respite have been completely neglected, turning into a breeding ground for accidents and diseases. This turmoil has left the children and youth with no safe places to play, forcing them into dangerous environments that are nothing short of a government-orchestrated breakdown of order. The lives of the people, especially the most vulnerable, are treated as worthless by those in power. Yet, the occupational government remains fixated on a state of perpetual violence, while the simple, vital task of making the community safe has been completely ignored. Unfortunately, such incidents have become a grim, reoccurring pattern for young and old alike, with lives constantly at risk due to a profound lack of public safety infrastructure. The price is continuously being paid by Ambazonians' most innocent citizens. All right, Barrister Mbeseha, you're welcome to tonight's Undaunted.
Thank you for having me.
All right, our first report today, of course, always sad, everything sad, always recording that. But then we're here to ensure that people get to find out all of the pain and atrocities Ambazonians would have to endure and all of the pains that they are currently going through. In this report, we tried our best to let people understand that if there were playing grounds or if there were comfortable places, children wouldn't just trail to the river. I mean, if everywhere, if all things were seemingly okay, why would little children go to the river? But while we're thinking about that, I can also remember some time back, you did tell us here that before now, rivers didn't drown people. Remember one time we talked about students from the Buea and Bamenda University getting into the river, drowning in some lake, and you did say some things are going wrong. Do you think that that can be the same situation with the death of this little boy drowned in that river?
Well, the death of the little boy drowning in a river speaks a lot to many other things that go around there wrong. Especially a little child, that's a little child going to school. It talks about school security. Let us talk about school security. Where is the school located? Who located the school there? If the school is properly located around where there's a river or a stream, is that okay? If it is okay, what education are these people supposed to be given? You see, primary schools, like any other schools, are different from one place to the other. The environment provides safety for them. If you have to go and locate a school, call it even a university, at the Atlantic Beach down in Limbe, Victoria. Well, you know, some students can jump into the ocean to swim, to catch fish, or we can't know it. A child coming from Cambe, from Garawa, who has never seen an ocean, will not know what that thing stands for. So it speaks a lot in terms of education. If these are little kids, we're not talking of them lacking issues. No, being carried away by streams, call them rivers. It caused the issue again, who located the school there. We have said here many times before. Yaoundé only knows how to do one thing, to produce a piece of paper. I talked about it before concerning the University of Bamenda. They signed a decree in Yaoundé, or President Ministerial order, creating a school in Mumbang. Let me just call it Mumbang. I don't know where the place is. They don't know where, there's no provision for the location of the school. You just put a piece of paper, a school is created in Mumbang, and go away. And the villagers go around, go dig some holes, put some sticks there, and then the children sit there, and they call it a school. Now, the school creation requires more than just a piece of paper. It requires upon the person creating the school, to locate the environment where the school will be. Where is the area? Where is the physical area they are talking about a school in Mumbai or a school in Bafany or somewhere? So it starts from there. And then, of course, the caliber of teachers you send there. If there's a stream flowing around that school there, the first thing that they should do is to be sure that the children are safe. 2 or 3 things that can be done, or that must be done to be sure the children are safe. The first thing that they should do is to fence that place, so that children don't get into it freely. It should be fenced, because innocent children will go there to play or whatever reason. The second thing that should happen in that school is that children will go to that school. There should be a teacher there who should teach them on basic things like swimming. If that child knew how to swim, the child will not be drowned. So a teacher who come there must be one of them or several of them who know how to swim, who can teach the children the safety in a river or in a stream. Were all these things done? I'm not sure they did. You said we're talking about University of Bamenda, and I said they create this thing. We're talking about hostels for students, dormitories. They just created University of Bamenda on a piece of paper. They don't know where the students will live. They don't know how it should be. They borrow the principal's house of the principal's office of caste and put a school there and call it university. It doesn't match a university, because university should have where the children will go to read. We should have a library. What structure will be found where? How will the children get access to those dormitories? Because that is important. Because if they're in the dormitory, the students should be able to call the police and they should drive right there. You don't want to put a dormitory anywhere in the bush. They should go to, if there's an emergency, the ambulance should get there to pick the students or whoever to the hospital. The same goes to this school. It shows a total failure of the system. A system that operates without any prior planning, without even foresight of what can happen. But what would you expect out of this? This child is dead. What else do you expect? The only thing that you expect is to see the mother, the father crying there, with all students coming to sympathize with them. That's the end of it. The administration will do nothing to prevent such things happening in that school anymore. Talk less of looking at other schools located along riversides or along the ocean, where there's rare danger. If you jump into the river, into the ocean, into the lake, where you're not a swimmer, you will drown and die. That's just a simple thing. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how educated you are, and therefore, if they must locate schools there, let me say again, must be fenced to keep the children out of it. Basic things to be taught to the children, like basic swimming, how they can swim and get themselves out of the river or out of the lake or out of the ocean, whatever it is. These things are not done. Government is not even thinking about doing them. Because if you see there, you're not going to see community safety education there. You're not going to see civil education on how people can swim through rivers and streams. You're not going to find anything like that there. And so people grow up like that, and rivers will carry them away. That's a little child. That's a little child. Remember, we're talking here in this very forum, in this very platform, about how a priest is not a small boy. By the time you get to become a full priest, at least 30, 20 something, 30 years old. If that man knew how to swim, he wouldn't have died. So he able to swim himself out. And so he had grown up, whatever school he went to. But he belonged to the Diocese of Mafany. The Diocese of Mafany is along the river, the Cross River, what they call the Mafany River, very big river. If they have ever had an idea, it doesn't even go exercise in the Cross River how to swim, teach our priests, because they will go across rivers to Akwaya, they will go across fast-flowing rivers to Fontaine, to the BLM, to Kupi Mame, where this guy died. But that would not have happened. And so this is a total neglect of an important aspect of education that should have been done, which is not done, which should be done going forward. If they want to guarantee the safety of children, the safety of adults, and any other person who take the risk of entering fast-flowing rivers, entering lakes, or entering even the ocean. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. Moving on, there is a fake lockdown going on. And the in-house slave mayor of Buea, David Mafany, has taken a firm stand against shops that remain closed due to the ongoing, what we tag as fake lockdown. On Wednesday, September 10, 2025, Mayor Mafany descended on the street selling shops that defied the directives to open. Business owners who fail to comply face a fine of 25 francs CFA to have their shops unsealed. Despite the colonial government's effort, many shops owners have expressed fear and reluctance to open their businesses. The threat of violence and destruction from the French Cameroon has created a climate of uncertainty, making it challenging for business owners to determine whose directive to follow. One shop owner who wished to remain anonymous stated that it is better for him to pay 25 francs FA than for him to open his shop and risk being killed or having his goods burned. The colonial government knows how to solve this crisis, but they have decided to ignore it while innocent lives continues to suffer. The present lockdown that started on the 9th of September is called upon to prevent the start of La Republic to Cameroon school year in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia and distance Ambazonians from La Republic to Cameroon's organized election in the name of October 12 election. But we all know, we would pause here and reiterate that the government led by President Dr. Samuel Sako has not ordered any lockdown as of now in September. We did several reports to debunk that lockdown was not called by President Sako. Well, as at press time today, no shop owner has answered the Buea mayor's call to have their shops open. Barrister Mbeseha, yes, there is plan to have a lockdown in October, but the lockdown that was said to have started on the 9th of September was not the call from the federal government of Amazonia. We did our best to debunk that, but it's just obvious that the people probably are hearing from different voices. And at this time, you might not even blame them for thinking that this may have been from the government of President Sako. So it's important that we continue clearing the air that the present lockdown that they are respecting is definitely not the one they should be respecting.
I think the thing that concerns me, I would like to address it a little bit differently. What we're saying here, we all agree, the government of President Sako did not call for a lockdown. But they might call for one tomorrow. The governor of Buea, the mayor, is not part of our government. Whether it is called by President Sako or any other one else, they are against it. They are against it. That analyzed lockdowns. Lockdowns, either voluntarily or forced, are a form of civil disobedience. They all address the same cause, Ambazonian cause. So whether it is legal or illegal, it is people voluntarily refuse to do something or are being forced not to do it. That's a side story. What we should be analyzing is the actions of the mayor. Can the mayor of Buea or any other town, with his powers of mayor, with his padlocks or whatever he has, prevent a civil disobedience? No, he cannot. He doesn't have the tools to do it. Unfortunately, this gentleman in Buea, I heard he went to school. He was really a lawyer. But he's very, very shocked. If he has forgotten that, if the story is true, he's trying to log this. If he has just forgotten that Ekema, the man he succeeded, well, see, he died. But lockdowns started at the time of Ekema. Ekema was the mayor of Buea. He was sitting there. He did exactly what this young man is trying to do now. He went out with his lock and keys and thought that he could prevent lockdowns. He did not succeed until he escaped and died in Douala. And so it's a futile exercise by the mayor. If I were the mayor, I would simply say, well, deja vu, I've already seen this before. What I'm going to do, if you're asking me to do, because I don't think this came from his mind. Some of his political superiors are instructing him to do this. She simply have to tell her, well, Mr. Minister, come and do it here. Why even the mayor? The governor is there. Why is he not doing it? The governor has battalions and types of soldiers that can enforce it. They are unable to enforce lockdown, the disobedience to lockdowns in the whole of Buea. How much more the poor mayor with his, what he used to call council messengers, how are they going to enforce it? They even learned from Ekema. Ekema tried that till death and he never succeeded. This is still the same Buea. I'm sure the bones of, I'm not sure that the flesh of Ekema, it's even rotten in the ground. It's still very freshly buried. And then you are thinking that you can. Again, let me insist. The government did not order this lockdown. We didn't do it officially. We are promised one. It's not yet done. But whether this is ordered or not, it is addressing the same issue. They are doing it differently, but it is addressing the same issue. We are facing the same opponent. And can that opponent, by force, that's the central issue, can that opponent by physical force crush a civil disobedience? My answer is no. It has been tried and failed. In Bamenda, they tried like that before, putting double locks on houses. They haven't right in Bamenda. And Kumba, they tried it before, and they didn't succeed. Why does the mayor of Buea think that he will succeed? The best thing you can tell is people, look, this is too bad. Go address the root causes of the program, and the stores will, as usual, open as they have been open until 2016. Life will become normal for everybody, including the mayor. You will not need armored cars to be going from one place to the other, because you will have nothing to fear. You be a mayor of the people, chosen by the people, for the people. That's the central thing there. That's what it is. If the mayor did not listen, I'm sure Kema's house is not very far from where he lives. I can go there and find out. If a Kema family is still there or not, I think they too have fled. But if they are not there, there are people to tell the story. But it doesn't even need people to tell the story. I'm 100% sure that this mayor Mafany was in Buea 5 years ago or so. When Ekema was doing what he did and died. He has succeeded Ekema. And so he has to learn from him. Over to you.
Barrister, I want to ask, there is actually, I'm sure that for the government not to talk about the opening of schools because it's not safe this time around is because they think that if they are saying that there is no election in Ambazonian territory in October, which is just next month, they are considering locking down in September and locking down in October. That would have been the reason. And then when you look at it logically, you will understand that, okay, since the people should not vote in October, why lock them in September? So in as much as I agree with you that, yes, whoever would have called on for this lockdown is trying to send the same message, is fighting the same common enemy. But then when you talk about it logically, it's going to really drain the people. And don't you think that the persons calling on the lockdown of that is currently being observed is trying to push ahead or fight President Sako in some way? Would you want to think in that direction?
No, he's not trying to fight President Sako. He's trying to bring more pain to the people. We disagree with what is going on there. Simply not because we want to respect President Sako, no. What the feelings of the people who live there, the citizens who are living in Buea or any other place in Amazonia, that should be our concern, not whether you are obeying President Sako or anybody else. I do not in any form or shape endorse what they are doing. No, I don't endorse it. I've simply said that we didn't authorize them to do it, we're not doing it. But I have simply addressed the mayor, thinking that he can stop it the way he is trying to do it. Because he has tried that method before, but we don't endorse it. Those people, if they listen to us, they would even be very, very different. Because I remember just last week or early this week, I think, the communication department came out line for lockdown, even during election time. Elections have their long process, but the processes take place at different times in different places. For example, it's not the same day that they will carry ballot boxes from, for example, Bamenda to Zok, or from Bamenda to Mbengwe. So if your idea is that they should not carry ballot boxes to Zok or to Mbengwe, what will you want long Kambe? Doesn't make sense. And so we have said that the counties and the AGs, they have this calendar at hand. If they know that people are moving to one campaign in a particular area on a particular date, they are free to make the lockdowns there. What we're against is this generalized lockdown for so long that they lose their meaning. I'm not endorsing it. So that is what it is. I don't know what the intention is. Maybe the intention is to undermine our own program. I have no idea. But this is the reason d'etre for to explain what we are doing at our own level of the government. But in a situation where we find ourselves, where there's looking like generalized confusion caused by the government, you must expect some rogue elements to come out. Sometimes for private purpose, sometimes such a pure ignorance of strategy and the things that they are not supposed to do. That's highly possible in this type of situation. They're doing the wrong thing. But the best way to end it is the way the mayor is doing. We come tomorrow. The mayor will not go and say those stuff in respect of the government. It's still silly. There are any lockdowns by the government or by rogue elements in the liberation struggle. That's what the is trying to do. Again and again. I don't know what those for lockdowns, prolonged lockdowns are doing now. They're not doing something. Why? Because they bring on the harm to the residents, to the inhabitants of the territory. Those who are there, who are supposed to go sell cocoyams, selling kerosene, who are supposed to go to the farm, who are supposed to go to the school, if they want to go. And remember again, we said in terms of school, if you feel that the place is safe for your child to go, take the child there. It's not for us to give you the security. That is our stand. We have not said they should lock down and close schools. We have never said that. And so that is what I'm referring to. Again, I'm not endorsing what those guys are doing. I'm simply addressing how the CEO is trying to handle the problem. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. We'll definitely see what comes out of this lockdown even tomorrow. Well, we'll head into the editorial, The Voice of Ambazonia. The editorial from The Voice of Ambazonia, dated 8 September 2025, addresses the recent persecution of leaders from the so-called Ambazonia Defense Forces in the United States. It firmly argues that their persecution is a matter of justice and not persecution. The piece emphasizes that the charges are based on confessions and evidence of serious crimes, including kidnappings, bombings, and killings of civilians that the ADF leaders and their spokesperson openly admitted to. These actions, it argues, were not acts of resistance, but atrocities that betray the Ambazonian people and undermined the legitimacy of the struggle for self-determination. The editorial further warns that supporting such individuals risks tainting the entire movement. It highlights how groups like the ADF, through extortion and violence against their own communities, blur the line between liberation and criminality. Quoting President Dr. Samuel Liko Misako, it reiterates that Ambazonians' fight is rooted in justice, not fear of or exploitation, and that holding rogue elements accountable is essential to maintaining the integrity and legitimacy of the revolution. The message is clear. The path to a free Ambazonia must be disciplined and just, not driven by warlords and criminals. Let's get that.
This is the voice of Ambazonians. Today is Monday, September 8th, 2025. Today's editorial is titled, Why the Prosecution of the ADF is Not a Cause for Advocacy. Fellow Ambazonians, some may be tempted to rally in solidarity with the recently indicted leaders of the so-called Ambazonian Defense Forces. But let us be clear, their prosecution in the United States is not persecution, it is accountability. To advocate for them would be to blur the line between justice and criminality, between our people's legitimate struggle and the confessions of warlords terrorized their own. The indictments are not based on rumors, but on confessions and evidence. Benedict Nwanankwọ and Pascal Kikishi Wongbi proudly claimed responsibility for kidnappings, extortions, bombings, and killings. Their spokespersons went on record after the abduction of Senator Regina Mundi, after the gruesome killing of Florence Ayafo, after the market bombings, and after the Mount Cameroon race attack that injured civilians. There were not military engagements. There were atrocities against ordinary Ambazonians. To defend such men is to betray their victims. The beheaded chiefs, the murdered Professor Chabi, a childhood friend from the diaspora, the civilians massacred in Guzan, and the countless families forced to pay so-called liberation taxes under threat of violence. These crimes were boasted about. The world took note, and now the law has caught up. Even Cecil Buckley's fact-finding mission confirmed the destructive overlap between armed groups and state-sponsored exploitation. Her Cameroon project revealed how the CDC was militarized and turned into an engine of repression. Against the backdrop, the ADF compounded Ambazonian suffering with ransom, extortion, and senseless killings. Fellow Ambazonians, our struggle is for freedom, not for ransom. It is for justice, not for bloodletting. That is why the prosecution of the ADF is not a cause for advocacy. It is a sober reminder that our cause must remain untainted, and that criminals, even when they wrap themselves in our flag, must face the law. History teaches us that liberation movements collapse when factions turn to predation. Self-determination is a right, but it comes with responsibility. Violence against civilians and extortion are not resistance. They are crimes. Accountability strengthens the revolution. By allowing criminals to be prosecuted, we make clear who the true defenders are and who the opportunists are. President Dr. Samuel Ikemisako has been unequivocal. Our revolution cannot and must not be hijacked by criminals. He has consistently drawn the line between the Ambazonian State Army defending communities against genocide and rogue militias like the ADF that turned their guns on civilians. And he declared, our revolution is not for ransom or extortion. Any man who preys on his own people under the pretext of liberation is not a liberator, but a criminal. Ambazonia will not carry their burden. The blood of our people cannot be foundation of our independence. We seek a free Ambazonia rooted in justice, not in fear or banditry. And finally, our legitimacy in the eyes of the world depends on our discipline. Spoilers weaken us, but accountability strengthens us. This is how we safeguard the purity of our cause. Fellow Ambazonians, the message is clear. Our liberation belongs to the disciplined, the just, and the selfless, not to warlords who preyed on their own people. This has been the voice of Ambazonia, truth in resistance, clarity in crisis.
Hi, Barrister Mbeseha. The voice of Ambazonia thinks that the ADF is not an advocacy group for the Ambazonian war for freedom and independence. What would you say?
Well, I think they are not. But the issue is not what I say or what Dama says. We're talking about the ADF. We're talking about the prosecution of their people. It is not me. It is not Dr. Mumbwa. It is not you prosecuting them. Somebody else is prosecuting them. Their members. And so, why are they prosecuting them? From different corners of the world, in Finland, in Norway, in the United States, and other places perhaps. Why are they prosecuting them? They are prosecuting them. I remember one of these forums and one of these programs, I said that, for example. The United Nations, which was created in 1945, was created for three main purposes. One, to prevent war. Two, to enforce human rights. And three, to be able to enforce agreements. These three have their own different arms. You prevent war, you go to the Security Council, you pass all those resolutions. War should not happen. You prevent human rights. What do? You go to the United Nations Human Rights Commission. But above all, it is written there in that very charter that any member of any country that accedes to the United Nations agrees to respect this charter. And so these other countries that are prosecuting the ADF people are people who are members of the United Nations. They have legislations in their own text, their own local laws to enforce human rights. And if you violate those their own laws, and you are a resident or a citizen of those different countries, they will prosecute you because they have inscribed in their own text laws to prevent the abuse of human rights wherever you do it. People will think that they come to hear them. No, that's of the international community. We shall be the same. Let me give an example. If tomorrow we set a government in Buea, and you or me, we set in Buea, they would have phone. I will create a forum to scam people money in Ghana, in China, in Japan. These are not Cameroonians. You are scamming people abroad, but you are doing it from Buea or in Bamenda. We will prosecute you because we signed up to the United Nations and other laws against cyber criminality. We will prosecute you in Buea for stealing money from somebody using your phone, stealing money from China, stealing money from Israel or Japan, wherever it is. That's the context in which these people are being prosecuted. They are outlawed. They are not doing a good thing in the liberation struggle. Dr. Mungo is right to say, the liberation struggle does not include extortion. It does not exclude killing of your own people in the name of the liberation movement. No, maybe I might defend them. But as a lawyer, I will find it difficult. You see, it is based on their own confessions. I find it difficult for me to go to court to defend somebody in the name of the ADF or any other name who ordered the execution of those three children in Goza Market Square in the name of the liberation. There's no defense for that. I will find it difficult to defend somebody because these are confessions. They confessed it. They put it out there popularly and they acknowledge that they did it. I will find it difficult to defend somebody who has caused the death of so many people in Bamenda because they wanted them to change their taxi colors. They admitted it publicly, that's confession, and they did it and recorded it themselves. So it is self-confession to criminality that should never have existed. At least intelligent criminals try to hide their track. These people are not, they didn't do it, but they will not be prosecuted by Cameroon because Cameroon are the allies. They live in Cameroon, all that with impunity. They have caught Choayaba, yes, but Choayaba was not living in Cameroon. He's not being prosecuted by the Cameroon government. Never. Like others, the ones at home there who are working for them and with them, who have kept quiet, they have simply withdrawn quietly. They are not being prosecuted. In Cameroon, criminality is not prosecuted as long as they're doing it to help the government. But when you go across the border and do it wrongly, even within Cameroon, they will kneel you down. That's how they killed Efan, who have been cooperating with them in the so-called war. They were not doing it privately. They will take money from you and write a piece of paper and give you and call it a receipt. That's very evident of war tax. The Cameroon government had their dues, their mayors, and everybody around there. They never apprehended them for doing that. They condoned it. They condoned those things. So they will not prosecute them there. But as long as they remain in Cameroon, they can go free. But if you're doing it like you and me out of here, out of there, these jurisdictions have the power to prosecute you for what you are doing somewhere else if you are violating their own laws. Because wherever you live, you are governed by the laws of that country. Wherever you are governed by the laws of that country. Criminal laws, civil laws, and so on and so forth. And so that's what it is. They are self-confessed. They have made it difficult for anybody to defend them because you cannot defend a confession. They have made it difficult for anybody to criticize the foreign government that are persecuting them because they live in those countries. They must abide by the rules, by the laws of those lands where they live. But again, back in Cameroon, for those who are still there, the ADF people in particular who are still there. How many of them have been prosecuted? Nobody has been prosecuted. I'm not saying about any ADF guy being prosecuted, call it in Bamenda or in Bengue, where they have courts right there. They were extorting people like this and taking money from them. They were catching people right down there in the middle of town, burning their cars for their color not being changed. In the face of the police, in the face of the B, in the face of the gendarmes, the magistrates, and everybody you find there, including the president of the military tribunal in Bamenda. They saw this in live and they did nothing. So there's all evidence to conclude that they were working the government and they are still working. But there's also evidence to show that those are the who are outside. Those governments of the country where they live have the right to hold them accountable if they want. And so that's what it is. Their cause, as far as this prosecution is concerned, is pitiable, but it's understandable. They brought it onto themselves for reasons they best know. Because I've said again, even the most stupid criminals try to hide their tracks. You will not go and put somebody in the market square, and execute him firing squad without a formal trial and think that you're excused. No, that was difficult. It would be different if they came in the night and just eliminated you and they have been doing, and then the thing will go for an unknown. But they really publicly, they record it, they put it out. So that's what it is. Over to you.
Right. Thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. Let's head into more humanitarian reports. Let's get to the Sabga-Bamenda Hill. Well, the French Cameroon's government's neglect has turned the Sabga-Bamenda Hill Road, a vital artery for the Midland zone, into a deteriorating mud track filled with potholes and erosion. The so-called National Highway, which is a major route linking several key areas in the zone, now stands as a brutal testament to how over 8-year-long war has paralyzed development and endangered the lives of motorists and communities in Ambazonia. Reports from travelers confirm the appalling state of the Sabga-Bamenda Hill, a key part of what La République du Cameroun calls a ring road. This famous so-called national highway now looks more like a neglected farm path with severe repair caused by heavy rainfall and running waters. The road treacherous state poses an increasing risk for motorists and threatens to further isolate communities that depend on these vital routes, including those in Ngokentuja, Balikumbat, Mbeseha, and Buea. Calling out the colonial government, users plugging the road have shared that this is not just a mere natural disaster, but a direct result of the occupational state's failed response to their much acclaimed national emergency. With resources embezzled and focus diverted to a militaristic approach, public works projects and essential road maintenance in Ambazonia have been completely abandoned. A 74-second video that has gone viral shows the shocking reality: overloaded cars struggling to plug through the deteriorated road, highlighting the desperate measure travelers are forced to take. Despite all the possible dangers, French Cameroon has remained indifferent to the well-being of citizens in Ambazonia. While the Biya region claims this road is part of a grand national network, the on-the-ground reality tells a different story. Oh well, very sad. Can see the videos how terrible it's looking and how people would have to stand on them to survive. Barrister Mbeseha, all of this is quite very sad. And it's not just about the fact that Ambazonians do not have roads. That's not even a new story. That's not something new on the block. It's the fact that even the little ones that they are managing are even worse than it was before, because they lack maintenance, and people would have no option than to ply that road that way. And it gets deteriorated over and over again, worse and worse and worse. And the people would have to bear with whatever they see when they step out to embark on a journey. This is rather too sad.
Well, it is really sad, but it is not a surprise because you see, we have all Ambazonians, or all those people of the northern zone, we call them, they have this sing song of the Bamenda Ring Road. I'm very sure Sabga is on the road. Why do we call it the Ring Road? Maybe people do not understand. The road was conceived in the 60s to leave Bamenda, go around all the divisions of the Northwest, called the Northwest, and come back to Bamenda. He had done the whole circle of the ring. He had passed through Buea, he had passed through Dongamandu, he had passed through Ngokitunja, he had passed through all those divisions there except Momo. So it was a ring road. It is still a ring road. Yaoundé came in the presence of all this, with the presence and the physical promises of Mr. Paul Biya himself, the president of Cameroon, to dig the ring road. They have said that they have never done it. If they had done the ring road, Sabga Hill would have been properly done. Nothing has happened there. So Sabga is just part of the ring road. Why do we emphasize that alone? Because it's a hill. But I'm sure there are other hills in Dap. There are other hills in Womb. There are other hills in Cambe, where this road is supposed to have passed, where the people are suffering the same fate. There are other places that are now on the ring road. For example, just 20 kilometers away from Bamenda. There's no road there. It's not different from the Sabga here. Talk less of going to places like Widiko. A few of them, those places in Momo have benefited from the Trans-African Highway that passes through maybe Widiko and goes across Mafany. But overall, there are no roads there. Not just on the ring road. There are no roads in the so-called northwest, southwest. We have analyzed it here a million times. We have seen the road going to Ndian. There's no road there. Even where the Prime Minister's own village is there. We have seen the roads going to Kupe Manenguba. There's no road there. We have seen the roads going to Libelem. There's no road there, and so on and so forth. There are no roads anywhere. So Sabga is just a small dot on the map of roads in Amazonia, which have been totally abandoned. They are not even repairing them because they have never dug the roads. There's no road there. You cannot repair what you did not create. For example, to the best of my knowledge, I can give this example. They have never dug any road to India, so they have nothing to repair there. They have never dug any road to Buea, not once. So they have nothing to repair there. What you see in pictures they show on social media are tracks cut by the people with their own hands. They have never done the road to Bangam or to Kupe Manenguba. And so the thing can be repeated everywhere else in Amazonia. If there are roads, what they call roads, it is where they will have something to exploit and stay. The best roads in Amazonia maybe will be found maybe in Fako. But for a reason, they had so much to steal from there. They will steal the oil from Yembe. They will use their tanks to carry away the thing from there. And so they have the Chikudua road, the Sikole road. They will even go right down to Edina. And so there have been no roads anywhere. Sabga just been a full stop, a dot on the map of roads in Amazonia and perhaps in the overall Cameroon. And so poor Sabga, we just use you to highlight the bigger problem. Let me go and finish the road. Let me go and tie that spot in Sabga. Today, would I have solved the problem of roads in Amazonia? Would I have solved the problem of roads in the Northwest? They call it Northwest. It will not. They have made that themselves. Because we saw the Colonial, the French ambassador come to Bamenda, promising to dig roads. The roads have not been done. If there were roads there, the ambassador would not be coming to make the promise anymore. And so again, that's one of the reasons why we fight. We did not choose to get independence 40, 50, 60 years ago to remain without roads, to remain without schools where children would drown in rivers, to remain without anything. Our own independence was not a recipe for punishment. It was supposed to be a recipe for self-development, the actualization of our own deeds. That they have failed. They confiscated it. They have failed in what independence meant to us. We have decided that we will leave. We have left. And when we go through what this exercise, that Sabga will be twice, 10 times better than what we had been contemplated in 1961. And so that's the reason why we fight, support this struggle. For those people who live there, seeing Sabga should remind you why we fight. Seeing Sabga should remind you why you should never go to vote. Because Sabga did not descend from the moon. There has been somebody sitting in parliament all these years representing that area. There has been somebody sitting there as senator representing all that area that you have always pretended to vote for him or her. What is their own accountability to tell you? What did they tell you about Sabga? That's the reason why you should say I will no longer, because just have done nothing to me. We're not furthering that of putting people that are never accountable, that you don't have to hold them accountable. And so that only encourages us to give this message out. Until you reach Buea, no elections. Until you reach Buea, nothing. We will develop Buea. We will develop Southern Cameroon. We will develop Ambazonia the way other countries have developed. And I've always added, God willing, we shall give French Cameroon loans to develop their own countries. They don't need to go to the World Bank or the Islamic Bank. They will come to the bank in Buea and they will give them loans. They will not need to go to France to get technical aid. They will cross the river and come to Buea. I will give them people who will help to design their own roads. God willing, Dr. Mongo will be there to help them design a better bridge over the Mongo Bridge, a Vuri bridge for them. Over to you.
All right, Barrister Mbeseha, talking about loans and talking about debts. First, we're getting into the neighboring La Republic to Cameroon right now. President Paul Biya has authorized the signing of a new loan agreement with the Islamic Development Bank through its Islamic Solidarity Fund for Development to support the improvement of what he calls basic education in the Cameroons. The financing agreement, amounting to 9.2 million euros, approximately 6 billion CFA francs, will fund the basic education support project in the Cameroons. The loan is said will be signed by the Minister of Economy, Planning and Regional Development on behalf of the Cameroonian government. The PAEBC aims to enhance access to quality basic education, particularly in undeserved areas, and support government efforts to strengthen the educational system through infrastructure. That's what they said. And also for teachers' development, teachers' training, and provision of learning materials. According to reports, says that this new loan would add to French Cameroon's growing public debt, which has been a point of national and international scrutiny. However, the government maintains that such financing is essential for meeting critical development goals, especially in the educational sector. The agreement with the ISDP aligns with French Cameroon's broader strategy and leverage international partnership for socio-economic development, which is said to be under its Vision 2035 framework. But our concern here is their debt. Just 1 month away from election, talking about October, or let's just give it 6 weeks. 6 weeks, or okay, let me not let me not exaggerate. Talking about about 8 weeks, 8 to 9 weeks to elections, the La Republic to Cameroon elections here, we're having this huge loan to be taken. I mean, if it was supposed to be for education, Barrister Mbeseha, you would think that that would have been done before the school resumption, right? That what you would at least think. Probably months before the school resumption, so that that will be used to put into shape the structure and all of that that is needed for school education. Remember, sometime last week we gave a report where teachers were protesting for not being properly cared for, being posted randomly, and all of that. That's because that educational sector actually lacks the architecture that it needs to progress and succeed. But here we are, 8 weeks to the La Republic de Cameroon general elections, and we are seeing a loan of 9.2 billion euros being taken to for this school project. Do you, by chance, believe in any way that this money taken is actually for this project? That is what's taken for. If not, I would want to hear your thought about this loan.
No, I don't agree with what they're saying. They are just liars. I'm sorry to call it. They are just liars. These are people who have used loans as a campaign strategy. Not just loans for primary school, basically call it. No. If you listen to their campaign on the side of the CPDM, loans have become a campaign strategy to win elections. That's what we are saying. Somewhere in my own area, I come from Biya. You see them there. We are taking a loan from China Bank to construct the road we just talked about. You go somewhere, they are taking a loan to finance the carrying of garbage from the streets, from the Chinese bank or from some Islamic stuff. Win an election. Yeah, they may take loans. Remember, this is important because this particular one is important because before the elections, a few weeks before the election, as even right now as it is ongoing, the issue has been their greatest challengers of the CPD are from the north, what they call the bigger north, the regions of the north. And their campaign strategy is schools that demonstrated primary schools there that are nowhere to be found. They sit under the trees. They sit on bare floors. Schools that were created 10 years ago. And so, well, are they sitting on benches without benches? Why are they sitting on the floor? Yeah, when they will say we don't have the money to be in the classrooms. Rightly or wrong, they don't have the money. But how do they do it? I don't have the money. What would they tell the people in the north, for example? We've just taken a 9 billion loan. We will finance the schools tomorrow. They are lying to you. Even if the loans come, if they give them the loans, they will simply steal the money. They are just thieves. Again, I've said in the broader sense of it, they are using loans as a campaign strategy. Loan to build schools, be a loan to dig roads, or any other thing that they want, that are really at stake in the presidential elections. And then you ask them back to basic education. Which country in the world lives on loans to finance basic education? What is basic education? It includes children going to nursery school. If you, the mother of a house, cannot afford by yourself to give your child breast milk, that's the basic. Then you go and borrow from your neighbor mother. You cease to be a mother. You can even sell a better story saying that they are taking roads, pretending to dig roads, pretending to be universities. That they say they are taking loans for basic education, primary education. What's the raison d'etre of that country? If they cannot by themselves even finance primary education. They take loans from the Islamic bank. I wish they were honest to themselves. One Bamileke regime will give them no money to build those schools. And so they are just lying, they are deceiving the people. Even if you take that loan, that £9, you call it 10 billion euros. If you take 10 billion euros, and you divided it to the 10 regions that they have in terms of primary basic education, how much would they get? They will get 1 billion each. If you get 1 billion to call it the Northwest or Southwest, you know the condition of schools there. How are they even going to use it? They're going to help nothing. They're lying, and yet they have come out with something called decentralization, which decentralization is supposed to take care of primary basic education. They take the loans in Yaoundé, and by their own text, they will give the provinces combined 15% of the money. Who would the rest of the money go to? How would the Northwest run their regional schools? The Southwest, the North, the East, whatever region they call it there. It's a ploy to deceive people. It's a government that has operated on deceit, on lying, on imagination. That is not even believable. Because again, all that money deployed to the schools in the far north will not even build all the classrooms. So it's a fraud of the majority over the minority, of the minority over the majority. They're just lying to the public. Whereas a state election, it's not even the basic education. People are already used to that. People in the north are used to their children sitting on the floor. I remember this morning I saw in Fumban somewhere, the governor of the West, who happens to be a Sabga-Bamenda, he claimed to go around seeing how schools were opening. And he himself was shocked. He went there himself, entered the classroom, he saw nothing. The governor of the West in Fumban, as late as yesterday morning. So these people are just fraudsters. They are liars. Nobody should believe them. And again, and again. I don't believe in the day that in the British Southern Cameroon, Ambazonians, will go to take loans to fund nursery schools, to run daycare centers. That's where basic education comes from. They're just liars. They have discovered their deceit. We have said no. It's time to tell the truth. It's time to take up those things ourselves. Over to you.
This is where we draw the curtains on tonight's Undaunted. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge and expatiating on some of this discussion that we've brought to the front burner today. Of course, Saturday is another time when we'll be drafting Meme and Libialem on Saturday. And we would want to know what you will be expecting. I know would see you, definitely see you on Saturday and still ask you the same question. But as a form of publicity, we want everyone to know that Meme and Libialem will be drafting on Saturday. And we want to know what you think about the draft that will be coming up. I mean, two counties, two LGAs are drafting on the same day. And I mean, it's supposed to be a forceful one. So what would be your expectation?
Well, I expect it to be, because there are two counties, I expect it to be extra. Extra because two mighty counties are brought together to draft on one day. Two mighty counties, among the two, one called the BLM. The BLM, that in this struggle, unlike any other county in Ambazonia or any other place in the world, has invented the weapons. Remember things like Fontema Sumanye? Remember all those things that were invented by the BLM people? Weapons, real weapons, that prepared this war back in 2019, 2017. Those are counties that matter. You remember this includes Meme. Kwakwa are all in Meme. Mbonge is all in Meme. And so these are two counties that are important. Besides that, Meme is the economic hub of the southern zone. And so together, I want to say that we expect everybody to put your hands into your pockets not once, twice. Put out your last penny not one, two, because two giants are brought together. Put your hands into your pocket and remember that the so-called Fontaine-Maçon and the Francais all came from the BLM. That's the center of discovery. That's the place of inventions as far as this war is concerned. As of today, they have not yet created their own Francais. They have not yet created their own Mafany. And so we're winning. These are people, these are countries that are very, very important. They're significant. They play a big role and will continue to play the big role in this struggle. So local come over. Contribute once, twice. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister. This is where I would officially and finally actually let you go. On Saturday, we'll definitely see you for the double draft that we will be having on Saturday. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, we return from the break, we'll head into Mali to see what Mali's armed forces are up to. Mali's armed forces have intensified security along one of the country's most critical trade corridors following a spate of deadly attacks and blockade by Islamist militants. The government has begun deploying military escorts to safeguard convoys of fuel trucks and commercial vehicles traveling between the capital, Bamako, and the border with Senegal. On Wednesday, convoys entering Mali received full military protection as they made their way towards the capital. They're heavily armed as part of the emergency security response to threats posed by Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam War Mulamin, a powerful al-Qaeda-affiliated military in the Sahel. Follows last week's of operations by civil transport companies after the Jinn militants launched a blockade on the capital. The group reportedly began intercepting vehicles, setting fire to fuel trucks, and threatening drivers in an effort to strangle economic activity and disrupt government control over the region. The army is committed to ensuring the safe passage of goods and people, said a spokesperson for Mali's military defense. The trade routes are vital, not just for the economy, but also for the daily lives of the citizens. And of course, they will not allow terrorist groups to hold the country hostage. The Bamako-Dakar corridor is a lifeline for Mali, a landlord country heavily reliant on Senegalese port for fuel, food, and essential goods. Disruption of this route threatens the exacerbate fuel shortage, inflate prices, and deepen their humanitarian crisis in the country already struggling with the conflicts, political instability, and food security. Local residents have expressed both relief and concern over the military intervention. We are glad that the army is stepping in, but the fear remains, said Amadou Diallo, a merchant in Bamako. We depend on these trucks for everything. If they stop, the city stops. Security analysts want that the latest blockade is part of the James Brothers strategy to undermine the transitional government, which has been in power since a military coup in 2021. Despite efforts to regain control over central and northern regions, large part of the country remains under the influence of armed groups. The military junta, which has cut ties with French forces and embraced Russian security assistance, now faces growing pressure to demonstrate that it can maintain territorial integrity and secure key infrastructure. Meanwhile, humanitarian organizations are calling for the safe passage of aid deliveries, which have also been impacted by the violence. As the conflict intensifies, Mali's fragile stability remains on edge, and the fight for control over strategic routes may determine much more than the flow of goods. All right. And right after the break, we'll head to Nepal, where Nepal erupts in youth-led protests over corruption and censorship. Nepal has been gripped by a wave of intense protest over the past week, led primarily by members of the country's youth and student population. The unrest began following a government decision to temporarily ban major social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X, citing concern over misinformation and non-compliance with regulatory demands. The ban was met with immediate backlash across urban centers, with thousands taking to the streets in Kathmandu, Pokhara, Biratanga, and other cities. Demonstrators expressed outrage not only at the censorship move, but also at broader issues of political corruption, economic stagnation, youth unemployment, and lack of transparency among Nepal's political elite. The protest quickly escalated in scale and intensity, with security forces deployed to contain crowds. Curfews were declared in several districts, and the army was called in to support local police. The clashes turned violent in multiple locations, resulting in the deaths of at least 19 individuals and leaving hundreds injured. In response to the growing crisis, the government lifted the social media ban and pledged to address public grievances. However, the unrest has already caused significant political damage. Sources indicate rising tensions within the ruling coalition, and there are growing calls for leadership change amidst accusations of authoritarianism and government failures. The underlying causes of the protest reflects deep-rooted dissatisfaction amongst Nepal's younger generation. Unemployment amongst youth remains high, and many believe that economic opportunities are concentrated amongst the well-connected. Additionally, allegations of nepotism and lack of accountability have fueled disillusionment with the democratic process. While the immediate crisis appears to have subsided with the lifting of the ban, the situation remains volatile. The government faces mounting pressure to implement reforms, readdress corruption, and restore trust in public institutions. International observers are monitoring the development closely, warning of potential long-term instability of the demands of the population continues to go unaddressed. It's interesting to see how foreign countries address issues. The youth are always out there. We just hope someday Africa and Africans will definitely learn to air, their thoughts in a way that the world can hear. All right, that's all we have for you on tonight's Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the stories that made it to the highlights. Tonight on Undaunted, we told you that war turns Bamenda rivers into death traps for children. The in-house slave mayor of Buea, David Mafany, cracks down on closed shops amid lockdown. Also tonight, we took a look at the Sabga-Bamenda hill as the road has turned deadly following the dilapidation. Also, we told you that in neighboring La Republic to Cameroon, President Biya has authorized €9.2 million loan for Islamic Development Bank for basic education project. On the African scene, we told you that Mali has deployed military escorts to protect vital trade routes. And on the global scene, Nepal is erupting in youth-led protests over corruption and censorship. And that's it for tonight's Undaunted. Bringing to the news untold stories. On behalf of Barrister Team Mbeseha, our in-house analyst, and a team of technicians behind tonight's production, is good night and God bless.